Everyone. Not sure you just heard me. I think the sound was off. So, wow, okay, I am about to record right now for you all. I guess I'll call it a June energy update. I might break this up into a couple of updates throughout this eclipse season because so much is going on. But I did want to just start off with really connecting with you guys today as we begin this eclipse journey. There are a variety of gateways and huge energies we're going to be interacting with throughout the month of June and the beginning of July. And right now we're obviously in some full moon energy and a lunar eclipse. So to touch on the eclipse energies. So I'm just kind of pulling up my notes here just to make sure I cover everything. So the biggest thing that, the biggest message coming through and what I'd like to start off with right now is the importance of really grounding into your body, to the earth and Gaia, really connecting to your heart, really connecting to what it is you need to support yourself, in particular your nervous system. Not only is a lot of trauma and a lot of veils being dissolved in our collective right now, we have a lot of light and energy moving through our bodies and our meridians, which is kind of like our inner grid system. We've had a lot of solar activity, a lot of Schumann resonance activity, and this is just really evidence of the photonic light and vibrations and frequencies that hold more information that are flowing through us. And so it's imperative to slow down when things are coming in so fast and so strongly, because it takes a while to integrate and unpack. And there's a lot readjusting in our field and in our physical bodies. And it can kind of create a bit of chaos with what we're feeling, what we're sensing, what's ours, what's not ours, what we're transmuting, what timelines are coming in that are actually merging, a lot of old timelines that we're feeling, but it's not really where we're at now. It's just the process of them shifting, and aspects that are either merging or we're letting go of that are no longer in alignment to where we're at, not only right now, but where we're heading. And anytime we go through a gateway, which we're always continuously going through gateways, but these really huge eclipse energies kind of like amplify gateway energy. And gateway energy is really about transformation. It's about traversing kind of from one realm into another. And so we always are taking inventory or are becoming consciously aware of what's, again, no longer a vibrational match to where we're at now, or what reality we're preferring to experience, what we're tuning into. You know, that's the passions and excitements and the downloads that come through are a part of what we're shifting into. It's kind of like those future timelines that haven't grounded into this now moment that we're feeling. And so that's the vibration. We want to keep attuning to that. You know, what is coming through, what's exciting us, what do our hearts want to express, what does our higher self want to come in and share with us. And as the higher self has the broader perspective, right? So it's really trusting that inner guidance, that intuition, that yes is in the sacral and is a part of our grounding, a part of our connection to Gaia, but as well as the heart, which is connecting to the higher self. and kind of, you know, this is that embodiment process that we're in with the lower and higher chakras, and the heart being the center point. And so always when there's a lot of spin, or there's just a lot of energy like swirling in our reality as we're going through massive amounts of transformations, the heart is the key energy that we kind of want to anchor into. It's just like, that's our center. It's how we can continue to find our center in a reality that is continuing to change so rapidly, almost every single day. So we're like, it's like trying to constantly fine tune our dial, right? And it's changing. It's always changing. So getting comfortable with that change, getting comfortable with I don't want to use the word instability, although there is instability, but when I say instability, I'm immediately feeling like a collective response of insecurity, feeling unsupported. And that's not true. It's the instability is merely what is crumbling, merely what is coming down. And so the instability is the old grid system. It's the old matrix that is very unstable at this moment. And it is shaky, but it doesn't mean that there is a new platform, a new container, a new home, so to speak, a vibrational space that is calling us, that is kind of pulling. There's another vortex field, right, that is pulling us towards that higher reality, that higher dimensional octave or experience, right? That fifth dimensional, that multi-dimensional, that new earth, that new paradigm energy that we're here to continue building and focusing on what we're here to do, which we all have unique missions. So I really highly recommend, you know, this eclipse season. We've had a lot of time in this quote unquote quarantine, which I prefer to call it more of a reset of, you know, really attuning to what we prefer, what we don't prefer. I shared about this in the last energy update. Like, we should been really taking note of, you know, the gifts that came from that reset, right? Like us realizing we need more of X, Y, and Z and less of, you know, A, B, and C. And so how can we now start implementing and really saying, committing? It takes almost like it's a focus. It's a fierce focus and commitment to really say yes and choose that timeline that you, that is the most abundant, that is the most loving, that is the most filled with freedom and sovereignty and empowerment and creativity and joy and community and unity consciousness. And every decision, every action, everything we do in every single moment should be fueling that momentum towards that reality. And the reality is already there. The reality is always available. New Earth is here. The grids are active. Universal consciousness, this ability to tap into more of our galactic self, more of that cosmic awareness, you know, that's highly coming in. These codes, so I'll shift into what these codes are, but there's a lot of information, there's a lot of support, there's a lot of galactic support, and it is scary, it is uncomfortable, it is constantly feeling like we're jumping off a bridge into who knows what, and how is this going to work out? And you know, the human is like being triggered on multiple levels, multi-dimensional realities, timelines, past lives, you know, coming in and kind of getting triggered, and the ego only knows the results of what happened before. But the thing is, the past is not our future. The past is not now. This truly is a time to really know. The way we really unplug from that reptilian consciousness is by shifting from that fight or flight or that safety and survival, that fear-based structure, belief system, limiting beliefs, really shifting into trusting. And it's a feeling that are part of these codes that are coming in. It's a huge part of I feel like there's a lot of golden codes or Christ consciousness codes, a lot of freedom codes or sovereignty codes, that they both hold this, it's a feeling you'll start to feel without needing to have evidence or proof of how you're going to be supported or how it's going to work out. It's this innate feeling of knowing that, like, how could it not? Because all of a sudden you're moving into this new conscious, expanded consciousness and awareness of your multidimensional self, of source, of your connection to all that is, and that is the highest truth. So we start to, it's kind of like what I'm feeling is like we're starting to shift into just this knowing, and it's giving us this additional support to move forward and to start creating things and moving towards things, and kind of taking that leap of faith where maybe 6 months ago or a year ago we were like, there's no way I could have ever done that, and all of a sudden we're finding ourselves being able to do something that we thought was perhaps never going to be possible, or this courage to speak or share or really start embodying and finding the uniqueness in your field and preparing yourself to own and embody that worth and share it with others in whichever way that is. And so I'm looking at the time now, 12:21, which is a huge gateway number, which is a huge number of moving as above, so below. And so it's really interesting that I'm seeing that as I'm talking, like this beautiful number, this beautiful sacred number. I see it as a major gateway number, as like the higher, this is what's coming through, the highest aspects of our energy field are starting to reconnect to like this column of light that we are anchoring and embodying. And these higher galactic aspects hold wisdom and information that are coming to meet these parts of ourselves, or these timelines, these parts of ourselves that are stuck kind of in these timelines or in these limiting beliefs or patterns or thoughts, and to reorganize and alchemize them. And it's like almost offering them to walk through this gateway to see the world through a new perspective that wasn't available before. And I feel this is immensely what these eclipse energy is about, because this, I see kind of 2020 as a huge gateway, but we are really being invited to continue in the midst of these unprecedented times, of this intense transformation, to focus on what it is and why we're here, and continuing to do that. And that's the support that's coming through these light codes. I feel there's a lot of rainbow codes coming through. The rainbow codes to me reflect the multidimensional, the bandwidth that is available to us, this multidimensional bandwidth of color, and that whole, each unique perspective and codes that make up our universe, or even multiverse. And it's really it's the all. It's the entire light spectrum that we are connected to. That there is no separation, and the beauty within the variations of our uniqueness. And that's what I feel is going on in our DNA as it continues, as we continue to become more crystalline, as so does our DNA, as so does that carbon DNA merging with that crystalline DNA. And that's what holds that bridge, that bandwidth of light to bring through all that we need to source in our journey. We don't always know how or when things are going to unfold or happen. We can't quite see, but that's that trust, and things will align. Whatever you need to know, you will know in that moment. Whatever you need to say, whatever you need to receive to support you in your journey of expansion will continue to be there. Sometimes these things that come at our doorstep are very uncomfortable and challenging, and that's part of our initiation into another level of alchemy, which is only the catalyst to expanding into a new frequency. There's, again, I mentioned the golden codes, the Christ consciousness codes, which I really feel are coming into our heart chakra, really expanding the heart chakra. And what often gets released in the heart chakra, and which many of you already know, is a lot of sadness, is a lot of grief. There's also the other side to anyone that's gone through a lot of grieving understands that there's a lot of anger and there's a lot of rage. So it's allowing these emotions to be freed and to come out and to have a space to be expressed, and for us to not feel afraid of the sadness that we feel, whether it's, or the anger, whether it's ours or coming from the collective. We will empath, we will feel things that are not particularly ours, because we are a part of this collective, and it's not to be feared. It's about learning to shift into daily habits or daily rituals or a daily self-care plan that allows you to move the energy out without having to overly identify with the messages and the stories that are coming out, and rather observing it so we can learn, so we can expand, so we can see the gifts within these stories. I think the stories are very important, but at the same time, we don't have to be overwhelmed with what we are feeling. And that's when we want to retract our root. It's when we want to not be in the body. It's when we want to leave the planet. And right now we are needed here more than ever to really ground in, to really let your root anchor deep into Gaia. And before I came on to record this, I was just kind of tuning in, and immediately Gaia Sophia came forward. She is a guide of mine, and I could feel her energy field, almost just like this mother's hand, like coming up through my root. And I felt just like this softness in my belly. I felt her almost massaging my heart. And she wanted me just to share this, like that, to really inviting you all to connect with her and connect with all that is a part of Gaia Sophia, all of the nature, all of the portals, the grids, the crystal kingdom. There's so many beings here to assist us in this process. And you know, just allowing the energy to come in and to work with any parts of your body that are going through a big release, whether you have pain or whether you just, you know, you feel an emotion somewhere. This will help us ground into the moment. This will help us get back into our body and allow us to receive the support we need, knowing that we don't have to do this all by ourselves. This is why our guides are here. This is why there are many different tools and a variety of beings that are specialized to help support us through this journey. And nature is the most important place to connect when we go through these big shifts, because our cells will reattune to the natural sacred geometric forms that are found in nature and within Gaia. So if you can't get out in nature, it doesn't matter. It's just about tuning into nature. Imagining your root chakra, you know, just connecting to the soil and all the nature and the animal kingdom and the plants and the roots and the water and the fire, just really allowing Gaia and all of this energy to come up and offer you some soothing, offer you some peace. Because when I connected in, I immediately felt this calmness and this love and this knowing that it's okay and she's okay, and ultimately we're gonna be okay, even though I know that may be hard to feel in this moment for some of us, and that's okay too. But to hold that vibration, I'm just going to kind of share that that wavelength to for you to maybe investigate and to communicate with her yourself. Um, the Christ consciousness, which is what Gaia Sophia is connected to, the Sophia Christ is the unconditional love, is the unity consciousness. And that's what's taking place in our heart, because that is the portal to 5D, to New Earth. And so these codes are really amplifying. And I also just want to tune in, touch into the connection from our hearts to our pineal gland. I mentioned this in a post, and I talked a lot more about some energies in a recent post, and I'll put a link, I put it in a blog form, and I'll add a link to that. But what's happening is there's a lot of pineal activation. So there's a lot of, you might be having a lot of like headaches or jaw pain or different kinds of pressure in that area. We're going through a major transformation as well during this eclipse with our psychic awareness, our psychic abilities, our extrasensory gifts. They're all very unique to each one of us. They're all very individual. We all have them, and we're all going through kind of an upgrade or an up-leveling. And so part of the challenge with that, when we kind of go through an upgrade, is sometimes we might feel bombarded with information. We don't even know like where to go or what to do, or like it's so much is coming through. It's almost like it hasn't quite integrated and landed and really found its place within our almost like physical self. Another thing is sometimes we actually feel the opposite, like my psychic awareness feels less, or I'm not feeling my guides, or I don't feel that connection that I usually feel. And I share this a lot. This comes up a lot with clients, and this happens many times, but this is wanting to be shared in this transmission, is just like a computer going through an upgrade, and we have to turn down the computer to allow the updates to run. It's very similar to kind of our operating system. And really trusting that it's a good sign, really, because we know we're going through an upgrade, and what's on the other side is that new level of awareness. And the third thing I want to talk about with this increase in psychic awareness or extrasensory abilities is that many of us are empaths and very sensitive as far as like what we feel and what we're absorbing energetically. And that's increasing too. So the higher we vibrate, the more we expand, the more sensitive we become. And that can be a bit overwhelming. I know for myself that I had recently shared like a lot of things that go on in the collective. I tend to feel either an immense amount, sometimes I have a lot of depression come up for me, where I will just be slammed with complete overwhelming sadness, and I know it's not mine. Like and it almost like feels chemical. I don't know what's going on, and it's always an indication, usually like there's these big collective things going on. Or anxiety, really bad anxiety, kind of feeling the fear of the unknown, as well as the anxiety of my own soul, unsure of what's going to unfold, and kind of again maybe tapping into past timelines, things of trauma. But it's this ability to empath and feel more energy moving through our bodies, you know, as the sun continues to amplify the codes and the energy coming through, as Gaia continues to match that amplification and our raising of consciousness, and we feel that energy coming flooding through our bodies, you know, of above, from below and above. I feel the collective. I sometimes have a lot of physical pain. Pain and healing has been a huge part of my journey, as a part of my awakening journey. So I feel all kinds of stuff, and sometimes it's stuff that a lot of times it's not mine, and then sometimes it is stuff that's mine. Sometimes the nervous system is kind of shaking out some old beliefs or old dense energy, or certain parts of our body are as well. Sometimes I feel pain is the last place, like the last piece of alchemy. You know, we've just done a lot of transformation and healing work, shadow work, and that, again, that quarantine. We're seeing this now reflected in the collective as we're going through a collective clearing. And it's, so pain sometimes can be this last piece of that, you know, of the work, the inner work that we've done. It's kind of that last physical, because the physicality of it is the slowest, so it's the last, and so sometimes the pain is part of that. So I just wanted to share that. And I'm just going through, so for those of you who aren't in my New Paradigm of Light Facebook group, I asked my community for some questions or anything they wanted me to tune into for this topic. So that's, I'm just kind of going through and checking to make sure I'm kind of running through everything. At the end of the day, I feel what we're really being asked to do is we kind of move through this stargate, or whatever you want to call it, portal, the chaos and the crumbling and the emotions, the situations will continue to appear on this planet. So we're not out of this collective purge, this collective shakeup, so to speak. But shakeup, I just mean it's like a snow globe, right? But it will settle. It will settle into its new vibration at some point, and is to be that, to continue finding your center and to be that eye of the storm. And I feel really, again, this is very much about slowing down so we can continue to tune into, you know, what's our truth as we move through this. To support yourself physically, some people have asked about fasting, or, you know, what exactly can we do to support ourselves during this crazy intense time that we're in. And I just honestly feel that it's so individual. I don't ever feel, it's hard for me to answer that question for one specific person, because I feel our needs are so different. Our bodies are so different. We're all manifested at a point in time with certain beliefs and certain frequencies and certain soul intentions as well. It's hard to say. But I would really trust whatever your body is telling you, or whatever you're just feeling guided to do. Like if fasting is calling at you, yeah, try it out. If that feels really good, when you feel into that, you're like, yeah, I feel a sense of peace when I think about that maybe that's what your body is really asking for. It would make sense at this time to be called to do something like that, because again, we are still continuing to release and fine-tune the vibrations that we want to be embodying and interacting with on the other side of this portal, or this gateway, or this stargate. So some of the stuff that the body is carrying might want to be flushed out as well to help support you through this transition. But rest as much as you need. Eat as much as you need. If you're feeling more hungry than usual, I can't always express enough the importance of self-care. This has got to be like one of the #1 things that we should be focusing on, is continuing to take care of our nervous systems. they are continuously bombarded. Our society is set up to simulate a fight or flight response in almost everything that we watch, that we listen to, that when we drive, like everything, right? The loud noises, the stress, all of this stuff. And so when we amplify it with these, when it gets amplified with these collective themes and things that are happening and occurring, and we feel all that because we're all connected, it's more than ever an opportunity for us to learn about our nervous system, learn how we can bring more peace and more calmness. This is a very yin practice, right? The nervous system is more of a fiery element. You know, it's light, it's electric, it's like electricity. So drinking more water, taking more baths, listening to calming music, or even like ocean sounds, anything to kind of bring you however what you need to find that your center, your core. I think that that's extremely important right now, and it's an ongoing practice. I think I wanted to talk about the divine feminine, but I might make a separate video on that because it's such a bigger topic, but it's extremely important. You know, for a while we were all talking about the divine feminine all the time, and we haven't been talking about it quite as much lately, and I think it's still so important and such a imperative part of our journey to understand the energies of yin. So I think I'll make a separate video on that. So the last thing I just want to cover before we end is someone wanted me to discuss the topic of death. And I think this is a really important topic considering what is going on right now. Many souls are transitioning from the planet. It's a topic that we don't discuss very much at all in our society or in most societies. It's a topic that used to be discussed and was very much a part of culture and story and many indigenous traditions. It wasn't, so I'll just tune into, you know, what came through around that topic, because I think it correlates very much to what we're going through. You know, we're kind of in this huge death process that has been kind of ongoing, right? Like for many years, whether you want to say since 2012 or prior to that or whatever, we're moving into a new age, and the old age is dying, and everything that is attached to that and conditioned to that is going through a death. Our bodies were manifested from that old frequency. Every belief system, every fabric of our society was created from that old grid system, you know, coming from that old age, a very dense, different energy. And we are in a very different frequency. We are residing in a much higher octave. We know we are in ascension, and ascension is all about a death and rebirth, or a resurrection, so to speak, a resurrection of truth that comes through the death process. Death, I feel, in some ways, not real. It's like what was coming through was death is a word that doesn't accurately describe the entirety of the entire energy or essence of death. So death it's almost like in our culture and society, it's been cut off to, it's an ending, and then that's it. So it's very scary. We don't know what happens. We don't know what's going on. So we can understand that. Even now, a lot of us are in fear. We don't know what's happening. We don't know what's going on. We don't know how this is going to turn out. You know, how are we going to be supported? The ego is continuously going through these deaths and transformations as it's having to recalibrate and reintegrate into the higher mind and the higher heart. And it's like a whole new operating system is coming online. And it's scary because we don't know. And we like to draw from the past rather than trust, you know, what's going on now, right? And that goes into like neuroplasticity and all kinds of other topics. But death, I feel a more accurate word for death would be transformation. Because you can't have death without birth, and you can't have birth without death. And so they go hand in hand. They are of one energy together. It's not separate. And I think that's the story and the old 3D fear-based version that we've been fed around death. So we only like to talk about birth, but the beauty about death is there's always a birth. One can't exist without the other. And so when we feel into that, it's quite exciting to know that whatever is dying is only making way for a new experience, because the rebirth or a birth is coming into a new perspective, right? You're birthing yourself, your soul, your energy, your consciousness into a new perspective, a new dimensional space, to have a new experience. And we're all going through that in our own way, wherever we're choosing to birth ourselves. You can talk about dying within each breath that we take. You know, I mean, that's a very old, like, Zen perspective, right? Like reincarnation happens with each conscious breath. At the same time, and I share this perspective, and some of you know, my awakening came after a near-death experience. So I have a little bit of, I guess, a gift and understanding that what my death experience felt like. And I believe this is what we're going through collectively as we move into the new earth in this fifth dimension. Why this topic is really important to talk about is nothing ever ended. My perspective and my consciousness kept moving on. It was moving into a different realm of existence and seeing things through a new lens. Nothing ever stopped. There was never a point of where everything was gone. I don't know how better to explain. It's like dreaming, and you're dreaming, and you know, the transition from dreaming to waking up, or waking up to dreaming, you're just moving your consciousness. It's not dying. There's no dying. And that was my experience. And I experienced something very loving and beautiful. And at the same time, I'll say that at that time where my body was still really had to go through a process, this initiation of also anchoring this higher vibration that I now, that I was birthing through the near-death experience, right? Because that's what it was. I was now birthing a new timeline. It was such a quantum leap. It was such a vast vibrational shift that occurred, which we're all going through. This was just one moment in time for myself, but we are all going through this many times. That what occurred from that, my body was having a very hard time anchoring that high vibration. It's my body was so dense and this huge, you know, leap in frequency was coming in. So, and it was scary because didn't quite land. It took a minute. It took a while to fully come into the body. And in that moment of transition, my body was still dying, so to speak. My organs were still not working, and my life force was not residing very much in my body. I was shaking, I was cold, I was it was scary. It was scary because I didn't know anything about death. It was scary because I didn't have anyone to talk to, and I knew something vibrational was happening, and I didn't have the elders or the shamans or the healers or whoever that had a greater understanding of this. So culturally and societally, we're very fearful about death, and it's programmed deep within ourselves. Deep, 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 deep. And this comes from that reptilian consciousness that literally lives through fearing its death and wanting to do anything it possibly can, with no consideration, right? So who it hurts, will go to any lengths to control or manipulate or whatever to stay alive, to survive. We have some of that because we have some of that reptilian consciousness within our brain and in our DNA. And there's nothing wrong with this mental consciousness. We're transforming it and we're just realigning it to a higher vibration. But that's part of the realigning is, I think, really talking about death more, talking about this, because so many of our actions come from this place of survival. When we hurt other beings, right? It's coming from like the survival of the fittest, like mentality. And when we realize, the divine perfection of the soul and what it chooses to come in and all the exit points it chooses, it's all very sovereign and it's all very coming from an empowered place. There are no victims. This is all very orchestrated and happening for a reason. And I think we would feel less fearful of it. And I think that's what's going to shift the way in which we start interacting with each other and the planet and what's going on. And so for us to talk about this more, and I think we will be talking about it because, again, we're experiencing it. We're experiencing a variety of levels of death and parts of the ego, these identities of who we thought we had to be, et cetera, dying. Even, how we thought we needed to even show up as light workers, dying, right? How we needed to run our soul businesses, dying. Like, and it could be kind of crazy as, some of us are, here to teach or share the codes that channel through us, and still sometimes going through these moments of, who am I? What are we? I don't even know what I'm doing or what's going on. And just learning this part of the death and rebirth process of continuing to transition into different timelines and parallel realities. Like we're always going through that, and also that there is really no such thing as death. So everything is happening now. We always have a connection to all that is and all that was and all that will be. And so we're never alone. Death isn't really real. Energy is continuing to only transform, to know itself in a new way and experiencing itself through a new lens. So that's what this eclipse energy is all about. It is a death and rebirth process. So I think that was very timely, and I wanted to cover that. And I know this is kind of a long talk, so I'm going to end there. And if anyone has any questions, please reach out to me. Please comment or email me, or please join my community, New Paradigm of Light, on Facebook. I'm sure a lot of you are listening to this already in the group. And thank you so much, and love you all, sending you so much love.